Welcome to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Nicholson, crime scene investigator turned functional health investigator. This podcast is here to share bite-sized episodes and unique interviews on a wide variety of health topics to empower, enlighten, and educate you to live your best, most vibrant life. Disclaimer: all information you hear on this podcast is for information only and constitutes individual opinions of the person speaking. This should not be taken as medical advice. Being a listener of this show does not initiate a practitioner-client relationship between you and the hosts or panelists on this show. Please discuss these topics with your medical professionals before making any changes to your health. Okay, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Holistic Health Bites podcast, episode 100. I cannot even believe it. This is so exciting. This show has focused entirely on metabolic health, much of which is driven by insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance is a term that many people still don't know, and they certainly don't know that it applies to them. Studies indicate that about half of the adult population worldwide have insulin resistance, though that's likely significantly lower than it truly is, given that other studies show that only 6% of the adult population meet the top 5 criteria for optimal metabolic health. Today, to continue spreading the message of just how important identifying and remedying insulin resistance is, I'm going to rapid fire run through a long list of conditions that are related to insulin resistance. Some are directly caused by insulin resistance, some are worsened by insulin resistance, and some have a bi-directional relationship, meaning that they feed on each other. Ready? Let's dive in. Number 1, the most obvious, type 2 diabetes. This is the most direct consequence of insulin resistance and literally develops because of insulin resistance. Number 2, pre-diabetes. This is a precursor to type 2 diabetes. So of course, if type 2 diabetes is caused by insulin resistance, pre-diabetes is as well. This condition shows elevated insulin levels and the early stages of blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C levels starting to climb as well. Number 3, metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions including high blood pressure, elevated blood sugar, excess body fat around the waist, high triglycerides, and low HDL cholesterol. Number 4, obesity. Insulin resistance can contribute to weight gain and difficulty losing weight. Insulin is a growth and storage hormone, telling the body to store any excess fuels coming in as fat. Because insulin wants to be storing fuels, it also blocks the hormone needed to release fat from stores. This effectively puts you in a fat storage mode and prevents you from burning fat. Number 5, cardiovascular disease. Insulin resistance is associated with an increased risk of heart disease by damaging the blood vessels, increasing blood pressure, and contributing to oxidative damage. Elevated blood sugars also contribute to higher triglyceride levels and lower HDL levels. Number 6, hypertension, high blood pressure. Insulin resistance may play a role in the development of high blood pressure by altering mineral balance and specific blood pressure-related hormones. Number 7, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. When the liver becomes insulin resistant, extra fat accumulates in the liver. Number 8, gestational diabetes. Diabetes that occurs during pregnancy due to excess insulin resistance. Pregnancy causes some level of insulin resistance naturally to allow for the growth of the mother's body and the baby. But when the insulin levels climb too high, it can contribute to the development of diabetes during pregnancy, which increases the risk of type 2 diabetes after pregnancy. Number 9, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. This is the most common cause of infertility in women, causing irregular periods, possible ovarian cysts, acne, facial hair growth, and other signs of high testosterone. This is caused in large part due to insulin resistance of the ovary. Number 10, erectile dysfunction. This is the most common cause of male infertility. Just like we discussed with hypertension, insulin resistance affects the dilation of blood vessels, contributing to this dysfunction. Number 11, Alzheimer's disease and other neurological disorders. This is effectively insulin resistance of the brain, where the brain cells cannot access or utilize glucose for energy. This leaves the brain unable to function properly for daily activities and or cognitive functions. Number 12, depression and other mental health conditions. Similarly to insulin resistance of the brain causing neurological and cognitive issues, it can also cause mood changes leading to depression and other mental health conditions. Number 13, migraines. This is another connection to the blood vessels and changes in the brain associated with poor glucose handling and insulin resistance. Number 14, chronic kidney disease. Insulin resistance is associated with the increased risk of kidney dysfunction. Diabetes is the number one cause of kidney disease. Number 15, inflammation. Insulin resistance can contribute to chronic inflammation in the body. If you have aches and pains, joint or limb swelling, insulin resistance might be contributing. Number 16, sleep apnea. Insulin resistance may be a factor for sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is associated with obesity and often occurs due to insulin resistance. Disrupted sleep also increases the risk of developing insulin resistance. Dysregulated blood sugars also contribute to sleep disturbances. Insulin resistance, leptin resistance, and poor blood sugar management all contribute to the development of obstructive sleep apnea. Number 17, cancer. Insulin is a growth factor, which can stimulate the growth of tumors and cancer cells. Cancer cells also thrive on glucose, so elevated blood sugars are providing ample fuel for the cancer to grow. Number 18, chronic fatigue syndrome. Insulin resistance may contribute to the feelings of fatigue due to the cells being unable to properly bring in and utilize fuel to make energy. If your cells are lacking energy production, you will be lacking energy. Number 19, skin conditions like skin tags and acanthosis nigricans are directly related to insulin resistance. Now, acanthosis nigricans is dark, velvety skin patches that are usually found in areas of skin folds like armpits or along the neck, anywhere where there's often skin rubbing on itself, but they can show up anywhere. Both of these kinds of conditions are attributed to insulin being a growth factor that's altering fibroblasts and keratinocytes in the skin. This can also cause a rise in testosterone, which can contribute to oil production and acne. Number 20, gout. Insulin resistance may contribute to elevated uric acid levels that are often associated with gout. 21, peripheral neuropathy. Nerve damage, often in the hands and feet, associated with diabetes and insulin resistance. Elevated blood sugars, a direct contributor to insulin resistance, can directly cause damage to the nerves throughout the body. 22, digestive issues. Insulin resistance can impact digestion and contribute to issues like bloating, constipation, and diarrhea due to alterations in the gut microbiome, blood flow, and muscle contractions in the digestive tract. 23, hormone imbalances. Disruptions in hormonal imbalance, including imbalances in insulin, estrogen, and testosterone. Insulin has numerous roles throughout the body and has receptors on every tissue, including those that produce our sex hormones. In males, insulin resistance can contribute to too much testosterone being converted to estrogen. Yes, all estrogens start as testosterone, but obviously we want this done at the proper level in both men and women. This is a natural process of the conversion of testosterone to estrogen, but we don't want this in excess in men. In females, this conversion can be blunted, causing low estrogen and high testosterone. Again, not what we want in females. Number 24, osteoarthritis. Insulin resistance may play a role in the development and progression of osteoarthritis by increasing inflammation of the synovial tissue of the joints. 25, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Insulin resistance may contribute to respiratory issues due to increased risk of respiratory infections and higher levels of inflammatory chemical messengers that are released from fat tissue. 26. Autoimmune disorders. Many autoimmune conditions are accompanied by insulin resistance and blood sugar handling issues. Elevated blood sugars interfere with healthy immune function as well. Of course, some types of diabetes are autoimmune in nature as well, such as type 1 diabetes and latent autoimmune diabetes of an adult, or LADA specifically. 27. Accelerated aging. Insulin resistance is associated with premature aging at the cellular level, which shows up as wrinkled skin, loss of lean tissue, joint pains, and physical and mental declines. 28. Impaired wound healing. Insulin resistance can impact the body's ability to heal wounds due to changes in blood flow, immune function, and cellular energy utilization processes that are needed to repair the tissue. And 29. Cataracts, blurry vision, glaucoma, and retinopathy. Changes in eyesight can be linked directly to elevated blood sugars and insulin resistance. Insulin resistance of the brain can also lead to vision changes. Whew, there you go. There is a long list of conditions that are directly related to insulin resistance. So if you have any of these conditions or anything that even resembles any of these conditions, you might just want to find out your level of insulin resistance so that you can go after it. This is a reversible condition in many cases. And at a minimum, it can be improved upon. I hope you found this information valuable. If you ever have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I look forward to hearing from you in the future, and we'll see you again on future episodes. Thanks for being a faithful listener to the podcast. I'd love it if you left me a 5-star review on this podcast so that others can more easily find this valuable information. Did you know I also work one-on-one with clients? I approach solving health challenges like I approached solving crimes, by conducting a thorough investigation into your case. Sadly, hundreds of millions of people in the US have insulin resistance, prediabetes, and diabetes, and the vast majority have no idea. I'm here to fix that. If you struggle with low energy, stubborn weight, hypertension, sleep disturbances, or any other undesired symptoms, let's talk. All you have to do is schedule a free call. The link will be in the show notes. And no, you do not need to live near me.